the Native American displacement, Jackson and his administration needs to be remembered for the nullification crisis in the 1830s. The nullification crisis is based largely on the tariff system, but it's also based on the economic conditions of both. The Northerners were industrialists and the Southerners were plantation owners and agriculturalists. So this is involved and wrapped up in both of their systems. Northern manufacturers wanted a high tariff that would protect their infant industries, making foreign competition more expensive, therefore people would buy the cheaper American product. Southerners were making cash crops, and they didn't produce their own manufactured goods. They were consumers of manufactured goods. And what tariffs do is that they artificially increase the prices. So Southerners wanted the goods to be available at a cheap a price as possible. And they viewed a high tariff as what they called an abomination. It was terrible. Now, Westerners, as we continue our westward expansion, are supporting the North because what the Westerners wanted was cheap internal improvements, things like roads and canals and eventually railroads, so that they could get their materials to the east and that the northern factories could get their manufactured goods into the west. The South is feeling a little paranoid here. They are feeling like the North and the West are uniting against them. What South Carolina decides to do in the 1830s is to use the idea of nullification and to force itself onto the federal power. They use a states' rights argument and they try to declare the tariff null and void, meaning that South Carolina would not pay the tariff. Jackson, who sees himself as a unionist, a nationalist, even though he's a Westerner, he decides to try to uphold the rights of the federal government to enforce the tariff. In fact, it became a very tense situation. Jackson forces a bill through Congress known as the Force Bill, which would allow him to use the military and the Navy to force the collection of this tax. This led to a compromise where the Force Bill was rescinded and the tariff was reduced. South Carolina backs off, but still felt that it was still their right to nullify acts of Congress. The Union is saved, but we can see in the nullification crisis what's going to lead to the secession crisis in the 1860s.